Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. We are starting earlier because we're going to be headed out to Danny's arraignment over calling the cops on himself to report a crime only to be arrested himself. Imagine going to an arraignment that is so stupid that the LAPD has no reason to be doing what in the hell they're doing. But another day, another corruption deal seen by the LAPD. Did someone say Tom Cruise? Tom Cruise, broken angle right here. Hi, love it. Hi, Stephanie. Hello, everyone. So, yes, we're going to talk about Tom Cruise, and we're going to start with this statement. The unholy alliance between Hollywood and Scientology, epitomized by the likes of Tom Cruise, is a chilling tale of complicity and corruption that spans decades. Behind the glitz and glamour lies a dark underbelly of abuse and exploitation, with innocent children as its primary victims. How is it that in the heart of Tinseltown, where stars are made and dreams are sold, children are subjected to unspeakable horrors within the confines of Scientology hotels? How did the twisted fantasies of a convicted felon, Hubbard, become normalized to the point where children are not only exposed, but actively coerced into participating in extreme role plays, so-called audits, that would make even the most hardened criminal shudder? Let's be clear, children cannot consent to the psychological and physical abuse disguised as therapy, no less, within Scientology's hotel walls. Yet under the guise of religious doctrine, these innocent souls are subjected to the whims of adults who are all too eager to indoctrinate them into their twisted and highly illegal world view. And where does Hollywood fit in all of this? How can an industry that prides itself on celebrating the best of the best stand idly while one of its own, Tom Cruise, aligns himself with an organization that systemically preys on vulnerable children? The hypocrisy is staggering. As if we just didn't have the Oscars, you guys. Their little graduation ceremony, everyone hand trophies everywhere. We don't know anything about anything. We're really celebrating art at the Oscars. Right, Hollywood? While Hollywood executives sip champagne and bask in the limelight, they turn a blind eye to the suffering of countless children who are ensnared in Scientology's web of deception and manipulation. So, breaking news to all you Hollywood people that couldn't be more tone deaf if you weren't being paid the millions to be utterly tone deaf AF. The cozy up to the Scientology's elite, exchanging favors and turning a blind eye to the atrocities being committed in their midst to children, no less. It's time for Hollywood to confront its demons, to stand on the right side of history and demand accountability for the crimes committed in the name of celebrity and greed. Tom Cruise may be a Hollywood icon, but his legacy will be forever tarnished by his association with Scientology and the suffering it has inflicted upon innocent children who could not consent. It's time for Hollywood to take a stance, to denounce Scientology's reign of terror and ensure that no child is ever subjected to such horrors again. Anything less is a betrayal of our shared humanity, and it is a stain on the soul of an industry built on illusion and artifice. That is all it took. A bunch of dangerous delusions pitched by a convicted felon and their daddy figure of choice to all Scientology parents, L. Ron Hubbard, a total lunatic propped up by the IRS of these United States of America, the land where you can get your freak on with a child, and the IRS will be there to give you a tax write-off for it. Hip, hip, hooray. Hip, hip, hooray, you guys. Yep. Exactly, Jessica. Meanwhile, they arrest and hold hostage protesters. The ones protesting the child trafficking are the ones in handcuffs. The ones protesting the child trafficking are the ones getting swatted. Right, LAPD leadership? Because that really does make a lot of sense, apparently. Apparently, you know, the LAPD is the enablers of this systemic institutionalized child trafficking. It is within the LAPD's jurisdiction, leadership. Take note. Start grabbing a notebook, LAPD leadership, and start writing down y'all's notes. It's in your jurisdiction that you're supposed to have no child trafficking. So why is child trafficking thriving inside of these hotels? Why is underage child trafficking thriving on L. Ron Hubbard Way? Why? Why are we having to go to another court hearing? Not because a child trafficker is going to be held accountable, not because children have been literally saved from being abused. We're going to an arraignment of a protester protesting child trafficking that they've now been able to witness for themselves, that they've now been able to see kids being brought into these hotels and commercial buildings and hotels that apparently the LAPD and Mayor Karen Bass are clueless minors are subjected to. Imagine being one of the people that works for Karen Bass, her little staff that monitor social media, that monitor all the PR places where Karen Bass is making sure that her image is, oh, I'm the mayor of the city. I really want to help everybody. You've been helping yourself, Karen Bass, as if you were not sharing a stage with David Miscavige himself. And then you called up who? Pro bono child trafficking enabler PR publicist of L. Ron Hubbard, Mike Rinder, to put up a video about how, oh, Karen Bass, you know, is very concerned that she's gonna lose the mayoral race, but you know, she did talk to Mike Rinder. And that's all it took for idiot voters of this city to go with the pitch. Well, if Mike Rinder spoke to Karen Bass, then I'm sure everything is great. So this is where we start, and this is where we are, you guys. All that can be advocated for inside of those hotels and commercial buildings is children. And y'all know that that's all we advocate for here. You're an adult, you're making a bad choice, you're writing and signing and paying and turning over your kids to those hotels. Go speak to the FBI then. Don't pitch yourself as a victim And here to react to our point is none other than Lawrence Wright getting interviewed by Joe Rogan. And you, Lawrence Wright, are a ridiculous reporter. Write that on your notes. Me, Lawrence Wright, I am a ridiculous reporter. You were a journalist, and nowhere in your stupid ass book about Hollywood and Scientology and the prison of belief, there's a mention of what children were going through. So apparently journalists type and write whatever in the hell they get told. They don't know how to investigate, you guys. They don't know how to get skin in the game. They don't know how to not be gullible, useful idiots. As if Lauren Wright didn't talk to Marty Rathbun and talk to Mike Rinder and really pitch me the story of what was going on. Okay, so you say David was beating you. Oh, yeah, everyone in America needs to know that. You couldn't be more useless. You couldn't be more pathetic. Is the children that were being abused, you dumb, moral imbeciles. It's the children who cannot fend for themselves when they're being preyed upon by the people on a prison of belief that they did have the faculty. Last time we checked in the law, it says if you are an adult, you are expected to defend the faculties of your decision making. It's called being an adult, making a choice and consenting to it. All adults in Scientology have consented to what in the hell L. Ron Hubbard pitched. There is not one single adult inside of those commercial buildings that can claim that they didn't know what's being done to children. You dumb imbeciles, journalists, that all you do is type, whatever the hell you get told. How stupid can you be? An investigation is not type whatever in the hell you get told. Go find out for yourself. Develop your own opinions based on observing what's being done. Or read all the things that L. Ron Hubbard put down and typed and see if anything seems to raise a shred of red flag to you idiots that keep going to adults that literally propped up this culture, that literally were being paid pro bono, some of them, pro bono, literally kid you not, you guys. How many decades did Mike Rinder pro bono did the PR for L. Ron Hubbard, Mike Rinder? That is your record. In case you don't know, in case you're not aware that you were a pro bono publicist for L. Ron Hubbard, that is what's on the public record. So imagine we have to rely on idiots like Lawrence Wright that misses the point that children were at risk. With all the adults, he said he spoke to hundreds of adults. Imagine that. Out of all the hundreds of adults that Lawrence Wright spoke to, how many of those brought up children to you, Lawrence Wright? How many? And don't think this is just picking on you. All the idiots of the corporate grifting, idiotic media that have grifted, made money, type headlines, let's make some money, let's type some bullshit headlines over and over and over again. To make money, to do what? To help themselves. And to not blow a shred of whistle to what in the hell was being done to kids. Who, yes, breaking news to all of you who really want to give all the adult grown-ass Scientologists the full benefit of the doubt, because did y'all not get the part where they were all role-playing L. Ron Hubbard without a shred of critical thinking skills? Where are the critical thinking skills that these adults consented to leave outside of the hotels and commercial buildings that they were entering to have a religious experience at the expense of children being provided in industrial size levels? This wasn't just one child over there and one little child over there. This was the hotels were staffed with kids. The hotels couldn't operate if kids were not around. The hotels would be paralyzed to service all of these grown adults that have gone in there to get serviced inside of these hotel and commercial buildings that we keep being told is where a lot of religious experiences are happening at an expense that only children apparently are being stuck with that bill. So let's really react to this and see what Lawrence Wright is saying about Hollywood. Because imagine that he did write in his book, it was Hollywood and Scientology. So let's really see what in the hell they're talking about.
One of the most bonkers things in our culture today. Yeah. I mean, amazing. That Scientology is like still, I mean, I passed by the Church of Scientology here just the other day. I was like, oh.
Oops. 2x speed. Let's listen to a normal speed.
Still works.
Yeah, they've just moved it. When the documentary came out, some woman had just gone to see it at the movie theater, and it was on the drag, on Guadalupe across from the university, and she drove her car through the plate glass windows of the Scientology building, and she didn't stop there. She drove around the lobby a little bit, knocking over bookshelves and stuff. So I had to issue a statement deploring violence in any form.
Was she a victim of it, or
no? She had just seen the documentary and she was really worked up.
Wow.
So
that's a hype. She might have some other issues.
Yeah, she might. Yeah.
Maybe Scientology could have helped her.
Yeah, ironically, there might have been a course for that.
Well, it's a weird thing when you see so many people that are so successful that are Scientologists. At least you used to see that. I had a neighbor who was one of the nicest guys. And he was a great guy. He was in my old neighborhood, and he was a Scientologist. And I found out in the most bizarre way because there was a piece of land.
Well, the great neighbor that was such a great guy, Joe Rogan, just an FYI, was funding hotels and commercial buildings where we were being kept with our passports locked up. So imagine what a great neighbor you really did have for yourself. Imagine that, yes, these people play dumb really well, really easily. So beware, warning label. If you're talking to a grown adult Scientologist, they play dumb on command. They are very good at passing off as very normal and very good PR because that's what in the hell they get told inside the hotel. Put up a whole PR campaign, make people see only this part of you, make them only see this part of you. And that is all it takes, apparently, to literally bamboozle people that supposedly have great critical thinking skills. But you know what? In America, we do have a shortage of critical thinking skills, and we have a shortage of investigators. People do not know how to investigate. People do not know how to pull a string. We're lucky for America, inside of those hotels, the children did get taught how to pull strings and did get taught how to not get told what it is, but find out what it is for yourself with your own eyeballs. Otherwise, your head was going to be on a pike. So imagine that those literal investigative skills are coming in handy right now as we are confronting all these men that have made much, much, much tons of money for themselves to purport that they are the literal, let me just type all these fancy words on a book. Let me go on a whole book tour across America and sell my BS missed withhold story. Because that is the problem with Lawrence Wright. He missed the withhold. He missed finding out what they were withholding. He only wrote down what he was told to write down based on people that wanted to tell him paperclip withholds. Oh, let me tell you about this time where I got beat up by an adult. because that's going to sound very controversial, but that is going to deflect from the fact that we were locking kids. Kidnapping kids is what it's called. Look up the legal definition of kidnapping, and then by all means, let us know if you end up as a child locked up inside of a hotel, unable to leave for hours on end with your passport locked up. What is that called? Because that would be great to fully understand from the FBI. What constitutes kidnapping, FBI, before it becomes a religious experience for a child? And how is kidnapping and religious experiences stuck inside hotels with our passports locked up, unable to leave, being video recorded, constitute a religious experience? So is that what all kidnappers of children need to do nowadays? Just tell the FBI that you're doing a Scientology session on a child, and then all of a sudden you can kidnap someone legally, especially if they're a child. Good luck with that child understanding what in the hell is going on. If they're relying on the critical thinking skills of the FBI, then they're literally fucked.
Land that was for sale. And he was talking about this piece of land, about possibly purchasing it. But he was going to have to put it off because he needed $50,000 because his wife was going clear.
Right.
And it was like a scene in a movie where the record skips. And I went, what? Like, what are you doing? And this was.
So imagine that, Joe Rogan. Your buddy, the wonderful man that you just said, he was a great neighbor, he was so great and he was so wonderful. Well, how wonderful was he if he was donating $50,000 to a hotel where children were being kidnapped, where children were being abused, where children were being exposed to extreme, disgusting role plays that are indefensible on their face? It's called aggravated child abuse. And yes, breaking news, America, aggravated child abuse is a full-blown felony, no matter what other label you're calling it. It doesn't change the fact that aggravated child abuse is aggravated child abuse. And now we have Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrand to thank for that precedent. Because no matter how much garbage Jody Hildebrand said, oh, Jody, just, handcuff your child because that makes a lot of sense, and make a child jump on top of a cactus because that also makes a lot of sense because God said this and God said that. Nobody gave a shred of an F when it came to these women literally facing a judge. A judge isn't going to cradle and canoodle your delusions. So breaking news to all you Scientology parents who are still out there being purposely deluded, recklessly, purposely wanting to be deluded. Come off of the delusion already. Come off of your L. Ron Hubbard drug. Nobody cares what in the hell you thought it was. Look at what it was on its face. If children end up locked up inside of hotel rooms, what is that called? By all means, write it down in the comments. You guys, what does that mean?
I was probably 28 at the time, 29. I was, the podcast has radically changed the way I look at things because I've had a chance to educate myself and have all these conversations with brilliant people, and just enough of these conversations where I have a different perspective. But back then, I really didn't know too much about Scientology other than I had bought a book from Dianetics online, not online, rather, on television, late night TV, 94. And they wouldn't stop sending me these pamphlets, asking me to come to all these various meetings and this and that, and sending me all these things for programs they have and discounts. And I mean, in one way, I was I admired their hustle. I was like, these guys don't stop.
Right.
Like, they just kept sending this shit to my mailbox. I thought it was like
well, imagine you were admiring the hassle of literal child traffickers, Joe Rogan. And thanks to your buddy that's sitting across from you, purporting to be the expert of Scientology, purporting to be the one that really spoke to a lot of adults and came up with his whatever book he came up with. That doesn't include anything about children. Imagine this journalist sunk his teeth into the background of L. Ron Hubbard. Imagine this journalist knows L. Ron Hubbard is a full-blown felon on the run that had 12-year-old Shelley Miscavige floating on a ship, as if L. Ron Hubbard didn't invent child trafficking, enabled by the U.S. government, who never nabbed him for child trafficking underage minors. Imagine the FBI that went and raided once they did get pressed that their documents were being touched, because God forbid their boxes at the government get touched. You want to catch an indictment? Go grab a literal box from a building of the government, and then the FBI will be all over you. You want to get your freak on with a child inside a Scientology hotel? Go and do it. The FBI will be literally putting their little hands like this outside. Oh, look, a lot of religion happens here at Celebrity Center. And the little FBI agents are all just walking around with their little hands like this. And yes, in America, you know, everything goes. Everything goes in America. There is no child trafficking laws. Breaking news. The laws that are there are just a bunch of platitudes, unenforceable platitudes. If you commit aggravated child abuse in America, they will let you get away with it. Because good luck finding anyone at the LAPD wanting to literally dig in and find out what in the hell's going on with that child. Good luck, kids, getting help from the police. The kids will not get helped. They're not paying taxes. Why should the police, the LAPD, help kids stuck in there if they are not paying taxes? So do we wonder why in America we have no one wanting to protect children? Because apparently children don't pay taxes. So you know what? Why would the FBI want to protect children? Why? They don't pay taxes. Like, they don't pay my salary at the FBI. I don't get six figures because children are paying for these taxes. So why the fuck would I lift a finger to do anything if they don't pay? I mean, if they don't pay, then better luck next lifetime. Okay, children that are being locked up right now, that are being audited as we speak, as if children are not in session right now. Just make sure you understand that, you guys. So you understand why the F. I could not be more livid, because nothing ever changes. And all we have is arrangement of protesters that are protesting the child trafficking.
A self-help book, and I would always been into like Anthony Robbins and all these different. I was into motivation. Like, what can I get that's going to help me like work harder or succeed better, or do, you know, whatever. So I saw this thing and it was like, wow, this seems very compelling. And I knew that there was a bunch of famous people that were Scientologists, like Tom Cruise and all. Right. I was like, maybe this is legit. And I was reading it and I was like, this is like, seems odd. It seems off, without getting too much into it. So when I talked to this guy who was my neighbor, really didn't have a deep background and understanding it, but that was the beginning of me like really getting into it, like talking to him and finding out like how much money he had to spend and what was it about and like what do they do for you. And he was explaining how nothing would ever influence you again, no negative influence. That's what going clear meant. That was probably one of the first times I had ever heard that expression.
Yeah.
Imagine with what kind of straight face you have to be a lying Scientologist to talk about how nothing would negatively influence you again. Imagine that man was paying $50,000 to a child trafficking hotel and nothing was negatively impacting him. That's the pitch. That's the pitch. Oh, you couldn't be negatively impacted because what? The convicted felon that you're following orders blindly of didn't already do that. You couldn't be more negatively impacted. Once you cross the line to be a full supporter of child trafficking, institutionalized child trafficking at an industrial size scale. Name another conspiracy, racketeering, child trafficking conspiracy that is the size of the child trafficking and abusers of Scientology. Name it. I dare anyone to name a network bigger than these people. Literally, where is that network? Because Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine were small nothings, FBI. Breaking news to you idiots at the FBI who really do think, oh, look, America, we didn't force a law because, you know, Jeffrey did eventually get nabbed. Meanwhile, their operation was miniature in comparison to what in the hell all of these Scientology parents have done. Jeffrey and Ghislaine were going around and recruiting teenagers come from broken homes to go get abused and trafficked. Scientology proteges of L. Ron Hubbard agreed to turn in their own kids to be trafficked. So, big difference, the type of access these people in these hotels got to even what Jeffrey and Ghislaine were offering. The ones in the hotel where Tom Cruise goes and gets serviced are very safe to abuse because guess what? Their parents are all in on it. The parents couldn't give less of an F if the child is abused because they're going to call it, oh, they're being really helped as they're being locked up against their will. That's the pitch.
First time I ran into it was when I was in college, and I was my girlfriend and I were living in an apartment above this little storefront, and it was Scientology, and I'd never heard of it before. And you know, they showed me the e-meter and stuff like that, and I just thought it was interesting. You know, I wasn't put off by it. I was, you know, I thought maybe so. I didn't.
Well, great. Great to know that you weren't put off by it, Lawrence Wright. It's so wonderful to understand that you were not put off by that e-meter, making our point for the 10th billion time that adults can consent. 21-year-old that you were when you were exposed to this, glad that didn't turn you off. So let's direct your attention to, you know, me at 10 years old, being held in a room, grabbing cans, being asked disgusting, depraved questions that I didn't know what in the hell was being asked and why and anything. Being kept in bondage. I could not move. I could not do anything. I could only be sitting there until the auditor told me I could move, until the auditor told me I could put the cans down. So why are children being kept in bondage and nobody gives an F? Why is that? Because that's what I would like to understand right now. Why are children being strapped to cans, being told they cannot move whatsoever? It could go on for hours. 4 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. It didn't matter. If that child didn't get a floating needle, they were going to be strapped to those cans. If those children didn't say they were loving what they were doing to them inside of the hotel, then they could not put the cans down under any circumstances. So thank you for making our point, Lawrence Wright, because yes, you grown-ass man that you were at 21, nobody cares if you thought you weren't put off by it. Because maybe you really should have tried to get some sessions. And maybe then you could have really had a shred of skin in the game to really opine with any weight other than your grifting book that accomplished nothing. Breaking news to you. Your book that pitched L. Ron Hubbard as this deranged person that he was. You did do your research on L. Ron Hubbard, so credit when credit is due to you. Congratulations. You really did show us that the founder that everyone is emulating, that the person that our parents pretended it was safe for them to become, as if our parents weren't paying to become L. Ron Hubbards themselves.
And pursue it.
How old were you at the time?
I was 21, yeah. And, you know, it was, I've always been interested in religions. It's one of the themes, I guess, of my work, and why people go into one religion why they believe one thing rather than another. Because
Yeah.
in America, you can believe anything you want. And, that's not true in a lot of countries, but in our country, there's a smorgasbord of religions you can choose from. And if you don't see something, you can make up your own. And
Great. So in America, you can believe whatever in the hell you want. So if you want to believe that kidnapping children is saving our world, breaking news to everyone in America, go and do it, because breaking news to you and the FBI is not going to catch you. The FBI is just going to play dumb. The IRS is going to approve for you to have your ways, because in America, they really do want to give you the choice to believe whatever. And no matter how many platitude laws have been written about, child trafficking, highly illegal to lock up a passport, it's a platitude. It's a platitude that the FBI uses to purport they give an F. It's a platitude that all these courts use to purport that this is a nation of laws. When people can just believe that committing a literal felony is a religious belief, as if that wasn't pitched by a convicted felon, then make that make sense, Lauren Wright. Because again, believe whatever. But if you do commit a crime, then what in the hell is called that? You committed a crime. Guess who else was believing a lot of BS about Helter Skelter? None other than literal protege of L. Ron Hubbard, Charles Manson, who told his followers to go and murder in the name of Helter Skelter, believing whatever they want, as you just pitched. And then guess what? When they did end up literally facing a judge, it didn't matter that they were saying, we were told by Charles Manson to believe this because you know what? He said that we really should murder these people because that was going to really do a lot. Imagine all Charles Manson had to do was tell his proteges, go and recruit little kids a la L. Ron Hubbard, and then the FBI, and then the LAPD, and then the Clearwater Police won't do anything to us. Let's bring kids to a ranch, very a la Scientology, as if they didn't bring children to a ranch, and then you will be able to get away with it. Imagine the only problem Charles Manson had is that he told his degenerate, disgusting proteges to go and commit literal murder when, yes, law enforcement then had to be like, okay, well, you can believe whatever you want, but you can do this because look, the news papers are really writing about this and we're getting a lot of heat. So we really have to show people that if we do get heat, then we will apply the laws. If we don't get heat, then we will play dumb and get paid under the table to continue to play dumb.
It's a very fertile religious culture, which interests me. And I've, as a reporter, I think about how people have strong political beliefs, and it doesn't affect their behavior at all.
Mm.
A lot of people like that, I'm sure. But, if you have powerful religious beliefs, it determines your life. And, as journalists, we should pay more attention to that. So I've always been intrigued by different religious manifestations. And so Scientology was on my list. I had wanted to write about it. And because they're always scaring everybody with, legal threats or, shakedowns and stuff like that.
Do they still do that, or have they kind of backed off from that?
The people some of my sources for that, they hounded them mercilessly. And, they hire private investigators. They're not doing the job that private investigators are, they're doing is not so much to sneak up on you or, go through your trash, although they do that. It's to intimidate you.
Mm.
And, they had somebody following me around for a while, mainly to my public events. You know, when I was making speeches, I'm in a band, and he came to one of my gigs.
What kind of band are you in?
It's a blues band. We play, you know, Texas, Louisiana music, and yeah, they.
Oops. Well, and here's a point too, again, you guys, who cares if this man was followed? How intimidated do you think children are when they're being told your ethics is very out? You look like a suppressive. You're going to go get an ethics interview, and we're going to get to the bottom of your criminal acts. As a child, literally kid you not, that's what these people were saying to us. That's what they were doing to us. They were labeling us. They were telling us that this was wrong with us, that was wrong with us, all because they completed a 2-week course inside of a disgusting hotel that gave them a certificate, and that's all it took. That's literally all it took. So glad to know that fair game of grown-ass adults is not that problematic for the adults that are receiving it. Fair game, making children fair game inside of those hotels. Since the parents said, yes, abuse my child, I don't care. My child's an adult. My child can fend off for himself. My child came back from being a CIRG member last lifetime, so my child knows how this goes. My child already is all about this because, you know, he was trained by L. Ron Hubbard in another lifetime, and that's why, you know, everything went inside of those disgusting hotels.
One of the themes, I guess, of my work, and why people go into one religion why they believe one thing rather than another. Because in America, you can believe anything you want. And, you know, that's not true in a lot of countries. But in our country, there's a small... And I've, as a reporter, I think about how people have strong political beliefs, and it doesn't affect their behavior. It determines your life. And, you know, as journalists, we should pay more attention to that. So,
yeah, as journalists, you should pay a lot more attention to that. Lawrence Wright, seeing that there's no journalist in the entirety of this literal world who's called out these MFers for the child trafficking degenerates they became, all thanks to L. Ron Hubbard. There is no journalist in America or the entire world that has connected a shred of receipt of what's already in the policies of L. Ron Hubbard dictating the abuse. And then you, with no shred of critical thinking skills for yourselves, can write anything other than your bumbling ramblings of idiocy that have nothing to do. It's called, you can only write altered importances that you get fed by the adults that were committing the abuse. Altered importance. Learn that little word from L. Ron Hubbard, Lawrence Wright, because that is something that people that want to literally misdirect an investigation will feed you to make sure that you don't get to what the hell the problem is. So journalists, going back to quote Tom Cruise, you all are glib MFers. All you do is go through the surface, be told a lot of things. I got told by the source. I got told by the source. You get told a lot of stuff. So all you write is a bunch of stupid gossip. Literally, XOXO gossip girl is what in the hell we have with all of these journalists that literally just get paid the millions and millions to write things in very fancy ways and say nothing. That's all we ever get.
I've always been intrigued by different religious manifestations. And so Scientology was on my list. I had wanted to write about it. And because they're always scaring everybody with, legal threats or, shakedowns and stuff like that.
Do they still do that, or have they kind of backed off from that?
Oh, the people some of my sources for that, I'm in a band, and he came to one of my gigs.
What kind of band are you in?
It's a blues pandemic. I don't know if we had a regular gig at the Skylark Lounge in East Austin, and opening.
Well, I
for
want to come see you when
Oh,
everything
you'll be
comes back.
invited. Yeah, we got it. We're going to be really rusty. We need a lot of rehearsal now.
That's to be expected. So, you got really fascinated by religions, and what made you focus on Scientology? I mean, there's a lot of crazy religions out there. One of the weirdest ones about Scientology is we know who made it, right?
Yeah.
It's like him and Joseph Smith. Those are
Yeah.
the Mormons and Scientology, the only ones where we know who the creator is.
Right.
And the Scientology one is particularly weird because it was a science fiction author.
Yeah.
It's like that didn't raise any red flags with people. Like,
well, you mentioned Mormons in the same breath, and I think that's apt. They were the.
I mean, again, in case you missed the memo, a racketeering child trafficking conspiracy is not a religion. Parents that signed up their kids to be fully trafficked, full knowing, with full impunity, are not practicing a religion. Parents that signed up their kids to have aggravated child abuse performed on them nonstop, 365, 24/7, committed felonies. In what world is committing a full-blown felony on a child with full impunity a religious activity? United States of America, tell us. Tell us. In what world do you write laws on a book just to have a different set of books applied? All willy-nilly. This set of books is going to apply this time, but this set of books is not going to apply this time, as if Ruby Franke, who documented all of her abuse of her kids on YouTube, being given a platform by YouTube's top leadership to blow her up to 2.5 million subs, literally showing how unhinged she was. Literally making a ton of money from advertisers, multi-millionaire that she became. Religious, whatever Mormon that they're just bringing up. It's all the same shit, different air freshener. These people have been using breaking news to the gullible idiots at the FBI. Crimes Against Children unit that also, I guess, gets told a lot of things and has no critical thinking skills of their own. Cashing checks for six-figure salaries to what? Sit around a desk all day and ponder what? What in the hell do the people, women and men at the FBI that are charged with enforcing laws, if minors were being trafficked across borders, is your problem, FBI. So since I did get crossed over the Juarez border into El Paso, Texas, and then flown to Florida, then it's your jurisdiction. It's you who should be applying the law, but yet you just have your head, you know where it is. Literally, go find y'all's head at the FBI. Go and find it quickly.
Most stigmatized religion in the 19th century. Mark Twain hated them. Zane Grey wrote a novel about, how wicked they were. They were hounded from one state to another. And Scientology is kind of the modern equivalent of that. And one of the reasons I wanted to write about it is you have these famous and sometimes wealthy people, as you point out, affiliating with this organization. It must be a kind of public relations martyrdom for them.
I mean, breaking news to you, Lawrence Wright. Who the hell do you think Jeffrey and Ghislaine had? Who? Who was in Jeffrey and Ghislaine's circle? Were famous people involved or not? Were Jeffrey and Ghislaine collecting blackmail on famous people? Yes or no? Lawrence, write. Write that in your next book. Write that in your next pitch. Write that in your next literal sentence that you write for yourself. Was that a thing? Yes or no? Because guess where you can literally find the same exact business model of child trafficking. Mind you, the Scientologists under the age of 12, which Jeffrey and Jelaine were after. So underage kids under 12 provided inside of hotels of Scientology, making them way worse.
I mean, you can admire Tom Cruise or John Travolta for their acting, but you also think, are they a little nuts? You know, is there something going on with them that they need this religion? And so why do they?
Yeah. Are they a little nuts? Have you ever heard of the KGB, Lawrence Wright? Does the word KGB mean anything to you? Does the word compromat mean anything to you, complete, utter idiot? Compromat. Google it. Google it at the KGB. Google what compromat does. Because if you thought that we inside of those hotels were not literal KGB mini agents, dominatrix, child dominatrix, KGB agents, sourcing, data mining, compromat out of adults, telling us, oh yeah, you know what? I think I effed you last lifetime. I think you and I were in this room and you and I, this is where I was effing you. Yes, adults could tell us that. Yes, we were writing it down. Yes, we were video recording it. Yes, then a case supervisor was grading that performance. Oh, you got a very well done because you really applied all of L1 Hubbard. Oh, you got a well done because you didn't apply L1 Hubbard just right because you did stumble on a word while you were asking a question. Have you committed any felony for which you have not been arrested? Why in the hell was I asking that at age 12? Why in the hell is compromat so valuable to child traffickers? Because that's how they keep the security in, you idiot. I mean, how more pathetic can these so-called incredible brains of America, Pulitzer Prize winners, so-called Pulitzer Prize winners, and yet they cannot connect a shred of dot, and yet they do collect a ton of money for subjects that apparently they have no clue what in the hell they're talking about.
They affiliate? Why do they lend their celebrity and their standing to such a stigmatized religion? That was one of the reasons I wanted to write about it.
Well, they must get some benefit out of it.
That's what I and they do.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yes, breaking news. The benefit is unfettered access to underage minor, you idiots. Where else do you go into a hotel where there's going to be unfettered access to minors? Where else can you pay to get inside of a hotel room with a minor and pay by the hour and have it video recorded and get the IRS to give you a tax write-off? In what world were they getting nothing out of it? In what world are Scientology parents not getting anything out of it? By all means, let us know. Let us know really quickly how they weren't getting something out of it and what other hotel offers this service. Write that with a straight face.
You know, I think especially at the lower levels, you know, they offer courses like Jerry Seinfeld was in for a while.
I don't think he was ever in. I think he was interested in it and he was studying it.
He took some courses.
Yeah.
But
he was never like committed as a Scientologist.
What is a Scientologist? I mean, once you're going to the Celebrity Center and you're taking courses, you know, I say you're a Scientologist.
So if you go fishing once, are you a fisherman?
If you commit a felony, are you a felon? Joe Rogan? If you lock up a child and you kidnap him, are you a felon? Yes or no? Because yes, even Jerry Seinfeld, I don't give a shred of a literal F. They all had access to see that kids were fair game inside of those hotels and commercial buildings. All it took is the consent of the collective of Scientology parents who all as a collective agreed, you know what you can do with my child? Treat him as an adult. You know what you can do with my child? Kidnap him against their will. And I give you the consent to abuse my child. And that's all it's taken for everyone to play dumb on the sidelines. Literally, kid you not. That's all it's taken.
Yeah, that case, aren't you?
It's a good question. You know?
I'm testing the waters.
I've played basketball a couple of times. I'm hardly a basketball player.
That's a little different.
Is it? I mean, I guess it is, but
it is different. If you commit a felony, you are a felon. You're an unindicted felon. Period. You committed a felony, that's what it's called. You become that. It's not a basketball thing. You lock up a child inside of a hotel room, you kidnapping, that's it. That is what in the hell it's called. So by all means, FBI, make it make sense to us right now. Make it make sense right the hell now.
I mean, I feel like taking courses and things doesn't.
Well,
make
Leonard Cohen did as well.
Sure.
Rock Hudson. I mean, there were a lot of people were drawn to it. And I think, you know, part of it is
a lot of people were ensnared in the ring, ensnared with them, and then they couldn't get out. They couldn't fathom repudiating it. That's all we have on the public record. In what world has this been repudiated? What in the hell all of these adults did to children? All we ever get is all this blah, blah, blah about all this blah, blah, blah that only props up their delusion. It never actually makes them repudiate or admit or blow the whistle as to what they all knew they were doing to the kids. Again, all the people that want to be like, well, but maybe they didn't know. They all knew. Inside of Scientology hotels, none of them can claim that they didn't know, because the sessions that adults got were the same that children got. The courses that adults did were the same ones that children did. The ethics handlings that adults did were the same ones that children did. So if everything was the same for adults and children, by all means, let us know what they didn't know about. Where's the plausible deniability of the parents? This wasn't Larry Nassar. We weren't sent to a doctor that everybody thought was a doctor, and then it turned out that he was a degenerate. In our case, our parents were fully aware what they were putting us up to. They loved it. They got off on it themselves. They knew how extreme the role plays were. They were pitched by Hubbard. Everyone ran around with the pitch like, make it very standard. Make sure you don't change a shred of a thing. So if they're not changing a shred of a thing, if they're not adjusting any boundaries for minors, then what in the hell is that called?
Scientology set itself up as a religion for celebrities. It deliberately targeted people like that. And for instance, if you go to Hollywood and you look at, you know, prominent actors and so on, they tend not to be Southern Baptist. You know, it's not designed for them. And, you know, they may come from a Southern Baptist background, but if they move to Hollywood and they're looking for a group of spiritual seekers like themselves, and they're, you know, they want to affiliate with people like them, Scientology says, here we are. And we have the Celebrity Center where people like you know, can come and you can hang around with other famous people.
I think they offer a certain amount of protection. And I think there's something that there for that. And there's also, I think there's a structure that exists. And I think there's a lot of people that, especially in such a volatile sort of, it's a uncertain world, the world of acting in particular. It's such a crazy world. I mean, I always said, if you want a formula, like why is LA the way it is? Well, just stop and think about what it is. You have a bunch of people that move there from somewhere else because they want fame, right? And then you make them.
Bingo, Joe Rogan. They wanted fame. That's all it ever was inside of that hotel. They sold nobodies a bunch of fake fame. And believe it or not, that's all it took for them to give their kids away. Oh, you're going to appear in our Source magazine. And you're just a nobody from nowhere town. Oh, what a great opportunity for me to be on a magazine telling the world that I'm going to save a world if I appear in this magazine. And I'm also going to save a world by donating my kids to the Sea Org and boasting about it in a magazine.
Them audition, which is the weirdest thing. You go into an unnatural environment, usually a conference room. There's a bunch of people sitting around judging you, and you want them to like you enough to pick you to do this thing. So you can't in any way buck trends. You have to be like uber polite. You have whatever the ideology is that's accepted, the general vibe of Hollywood, you must conform to that. You must conform to that, rather. They don't even have opinions. They have this conglomeration of opinions they've adopted in order to be let in.
I mean, literally, Hollywood and Scientology are twin brother and twin sister
to this tribe. And then you hope that they pick you. And so you have these incredibly insecure people who want acceptance and love, and then you make them beg for it. They're essentially like going there and hoping that these people will like them. And that's where you get the abuse, like the Harvey Weinsteins of the world and these type of people. It's like they're preying on this need to be accepted and brought into this group in order to work.
And I mean, again, shout out to Joe Rogan when the credit is due, you guys, because he's literally just described what all it took. Doesn't get simpler than that. Our parents wanted to be accepted. Our parents wanted to be told by David Miscavige that they were there also saving our world. And with that level of narcissism, egocentricity, indefensible AF, as it all sounds, it all got mainstreamed. And the FBI and the IRS and the LAPD and the Clearwater Police Department and all these so-called journalists, grifters, vampires sucking blood out of a racketeering scam that, yes, for the 10th billion time, breaking news is the children who were the victims who couldn't consent to that disgusting, depraved game. And yes, you cannot stop an adult from involving themselves in whatever in the hell they want to involve themselves. You cannot intervene. You cannot go and kidnap an adult. You cannot expect the LAPD to grab an adult and be like, don't go inside that hotel because we wouldn't want you to what? In what world is the government able to come and babysit adults? There is no bandwidth for that. And no one's asking the LAPD to go and babysit adults. They're being asked to go help kids. But I guess, again, as we did break the news in this segment alone, if you are a child that doesn't pay taxes to the IRS, if you are a child that doesn't pay taxes to the LAPD, if you are a child that doesn't pay taxes to the FBI, then better luck next lifetime for you to get a shred of help by these so-called law enforcement institutions that do have one set of books to apply laws when it's convenient and another set of books to run their little racketeering child trafficking scheme at an industrial size scale. Well, all manner of Hollywood celebrities, it's all it's taken to sanitize an image that is so sick and perverse, hardened criminals would shudder.
Be able to work. You have to play this fucked up game. And so if something comes along like Scientology that gives you structure, and gives you family and gives you like, we are for you. We're going to help you become clear. We're going to bring you to the.
That's where you got it wrong, Joe Rogan. That's exactly where you're getting it wrong. Scientology didn't come in to not do what in the hell you just said Hollywood was. Scientology and Hollywood are the same thing. You are the chosen one. We choose you. It's a mean girls club from literal hell. And yes, breaking news to everybody, they do prey on children. They adulticize children. They make money on the backs of children. Only Scientology and Hollywood can literally have a child that could make 100 grand for a bunch of adults in a literal week. You find that with me at the hotel doing that for Debbie Cook, or you find that in Hollywood with Drew Barrymore being literally used to, you know, make a lot of money to a lot of people when she was, you know, a 6-year-old, because that makes a lot of sense to Scientologists and Hollywood people.
The next level, you know, you're a success. It gives you something where you feel like have you ever done martial arts?
I did judo when I was in high school.
One of the beautiful things about martial arts is the belt system.
Yeah.
Because like you when you're a white belt and all of a sudden they tie that blue belt on your waist, you're like, wow, I am making progress. This is really happening. And you feel fantastic. Whereas if you went to a martial art, like I did kickboxing for a while, there's no belts. And it just feels weird. Like you don't know where you are. Like, where am I? Like it's not the most success. And because of that, some kickboxing systems, even Muay Thai, some weird systems have developed their own belt structure, which is weird. The system they've just sort of added to the existing martial art that didn't have a belt structure.
And yes, you guys, you can have a lot of games, adult games, where there's a lot of structures and a lot of levels that you can go here, you can go there, whatever. It's called adult games, don't involve children. It's called children cannot consent to those adult games.
But it's to give people this sense of progress, give people scaffolding, give people structure, give people this thing where you feel like something is happening for me. And I think that's one of the things that Scientology does really well for these fucked up people.
Absolutely.
Catch new episodes
for these effed up people. So there you go, guys. They're making monsters inside of those hotels. They're telling monsters that they can abuse kids, pay for it, and everyone will play dumb because the FBI won't care, the LAPD won't care, the Clearwater Police Department won't care, the state's attorney's office in Los Angeles doesn't give a shred of an F, neither does the Florida one, neither does anyone in this country give an F about kids because they don't pay taxes, they don't fund the police, they don't fund the FBI, they don't fund anything. So, you know, we're still getting no help. Imagine we have to pay taxes today, we still get no help. Imagine we just get told, well, you should have paid taxes when you were a child. Why didn't you pay taxes? So that's where the corruption lies. And yes, it's abominable that in the year 2024, all of this is still going on and nobody gives an F. So now we're going to end this stream because we have to go to see what in the hell's going on with Danny and his arraignment for having protested everything we discussed in this video. So I hope FBI agents, useless and pathetic as you are, start doing y'all's job. Start investigating for your damn selves. L. Ron Hubbard and his proteges did y'all a solid. Breaking news to you idiots at the FBI. All of it is recorded inside of the idiotic, disgusting pigsty hotel, child trafficking hotel that it is. It's all recorded there. It's all video recorded. It's all transcribed. So stop pretending that your job is hard because we made it easy for y'all. We were writing it down as the abuse was going on. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you all soon.